Hello, everyone. I am Cindiola with Sacred Garden Yoga, and I have my friend with me, again, my astrologist friend, Olga Miller. She's coming to us today with just some an astrological update, things that are happening in November, possibly December, that will be helpful to you to also help you even navigate through these times. Olga and I were just talking a moment before we got on video how this past it was the lunar eclipse, how potent it was, and how the weather, the astrological weather, feels like it's on steroids right now. And I think a lot of people probably feel that too. I mean, I certainly felt the impact of what's going on. I'll let you talk about that more, Olga, and why does it feel like everything is on steroids at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Cindy. Hi, everybody. So yeah, this month of November is not exactly a easygoing month. There's a lot going on astrologically, and there's quite a few placements or quite a few aspects that are happening that may be impacting you. So yeah, I kind of looked at all of the aspects happening, and there's quite a few of them. So I had to more zero in on the ones that have a more of an exact aspect, which means that the energetically, the I guess the exchange of energy is happening precisely versus, just like somewhat within a few degrees. And yes, as you mentioned, Cindy, November 8th lunar eclipse is definitely has been a full moon on steroids. What made it more challenging is that that moon, full moon in Taurus, had a very close proximity to Uranus, which is a planet of surprises, expect the unexpected. And it was opposing Venus and Sun and Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, which likes to hold on to things. It's a very emotional sign. It's very psychologically in its stability. And not only that, there was a challenging aspect, or challenging energy coming from Saturn as well, which made it, I guess, more difficult to digest this particular lunar eclipse. So the general theme of the lunar eclipse lasts probably about 6 months. And I would say it's more about letting go of things that no longer serve you. And it's not exactly its complete surprise. I think a lot of those things people are already aware of, and they need to kind of clean up their maybe emotional house or maybe their friendship house. But it's just more focusing now on that topic versus anything else.
And you just said, Olga, that this could last for 6 months.
Yes, the lunar eclipse effects last about 6 months or so. So it's not it's a slow process, but it's kind of like almost like evolution and eternal growth for someone. So if if a full moon could last for impact of it could last for about 4 weeks. So for the lunar eclipse, it's kind of like moon on steroids, right? Full moon on steroids. So it's some events may have happened already for people. Something may be happening a little bit later. And but the main thing is just to go with the flow and just think that things sometimes are happening for a reason, for us to grow internally, psychologically, physically, etc.
Okay.
And I can dive on this in just a little bit as well, maybe in a little bit more details to see how it may be impacting different signs or, a few key signs. And then another probably more potent aspect would be Neptune square Mars, which is already retrograde. And Mars does not like to be in retrograde because Mars is our drive, direct, energy going forward, our physical strive. And here it is, like I need to go backwards. So it's like that,
Yeah, you were talking a little bit about Mars retrograde last time, how you might feel less drive to do things. Yeah. And I remember specifically you mentioned too, it's not a good time to do any kind of elective surgeries or anything while Mars is in retrograde. And so now you're saying it's I'm sorry, did you say it was squared or it's conjunct with Neptune?
It's going to form a square with Neptune on November 19th to 22nd would be the exact square. So that probably will feel I would say a day or two beforehand and a day two afterhand. So it's about a week long, where we're gonna feel this little bit of a frustration in the areas, depending how our chart is placed. But there are some good days as well. For example,
Well,
to come.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, when you're talking about so Mars and Neptune,
Mhm.
Mars squared with Neptune, what kind of effect does that actually
Let me
have?
just let me just click forward, and maybe we can just talk about that as well. So if we're talking about Mars itself, Mars is a physical drive, right? It's more about selfish competitive energy. And first of all, it's almost like if you can imagine that little athlete, cannot play basketball. He has to sit on the sidelines for the game, and he just wants to move forward. And the coach says, like, no, you have to sit still. That's a frustration that builds from Mars. Now, Mars is in Gemini, which is a sign of communication, and it's also a sign of duplicity. So I would say that with Neptune, which is more about spiritual intuition, it's selfless, it's compassion, it's dissolving. When you combine energy of something that is striving forward, and at the moment it's actually being retained because it's going backwards, it's in retrograde. And when you're squaring it with something that is very unclear, it creates as frustration. So depending how the placements are done within a person's chart, it could just create, let's just say, frustration in a couple of areas. For example, like let's give an example of someone with Gemini second house, which is the house of money, and then maybe hopes and dreams, right? Where Neptune would be, which is Pisces. So if you start creating that square, it's almost like, what are my values, what are my skills, and you want to strive forward, making income from certain activities, and yet there is some kind of maybe misinformation going on, and you strive forward, yet you're not getting where you need to go. So that will create that factor of dissatisfaction, frustration, and it's almost like you'll have to do things twice maybe as well, because
Mm-hmm.
because of the misinformation. You go and let's say, you say, I'm going to go and make money in this particular area, and then you start getting additional information and you're like, oh, hold on, no, it's not going to work for me. So that's where that frustration could come through. But in generally, when you would try to combine energy of those two planets, it could feel like discouragement. It could feel like, past fears, they may come up, maybe like not feeling good enough. Because Neptune is, it's not there about our ego. It's more about the universe. It's about, compassion, loving everybody. It's very spiritual. And so nothing precise can work with Neptune. So this is what frustration is coming from. It's like driving fast car in a fog. It's not going to work very
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yeah, it's like you want to go, but you
Mhm.
can't see clearly enough what's going on.
Yes, that's
And that
exactly
would
how it
cause it,
feels.
and that what could cause the frustration. And so that is happening, you said on the 19th?
Yes, it's happening November 19th through 22nd. Will be 22 degrees in Gemini. And I have to say, if you know your chart, then usually if you have a planet within those 22 degrees, plus minus 5 degrees on each side or 3 degrees, you may feel it a little bit more than other people. Like it could be genuinely impacting you, but if you have a planetary placement, it may kick off some additional, I guess, aspects or energy connection within your chart that's saying, okay, not only you're going to be working on these two areas, but something else may be impacted. So just be mindful where you have it sitting in your chart. And just maybe, Cindy, if I may just share quickly,
Mm-hmm.
this is like the standard, or I guess it's traditional house wheel for astrological chart. And when people look at their signs, I would take a look at their rising sign and to see what it is to begin with, and that's going to become house number one. And
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the houses will follow. So see where you have Gemini and Pisces fall within your chart, because that will give you a little bit more idea about what's going on with you in terms of this particular aspect, like which areas of life it may be more impactful, where would you have frustrations, or have to kind of reassess things and wait a little to see, okay, now everything is clear and I can move forward.
Okay. Are you sharing your screen, Olga?
I am, yes.
Because I can't see, we can't see anything.
So sorry. I was sharing my screen.
Now see if you can share your screen.
Can you see it, Cindy?
Okay, there we go. Now I see it.
As always, technical difficulties.
I know, right? So maybe now this will make more sense when you were talking about where
Yes.
the first house is.
Yes,
You can
absolutely.
point where you can point right down there where the first house is, where it says self.
Yep.
Yes.
So for example, there's a couple places where you can actually pull your chart from, and one of them is astroseek.com, the other is astrocharts. So if person plugs in their location of birth, time and day and year, and that will help. And it's very important to know the time, because that's how your ascendant is calculated. So when we have tons of horoscopes available online where they say, you're a Leo sun or you're like a Capricorn sun, those are just for your sun sign, because the way you come across to the world could be a little bit differently. And that depends on your rising sign.
Okay.
So that being said, since we just covered Mars square Neptune, which is an interesting aspect, and here's a little bit more
Okay,
of
there's where, okay. Over
analysis.
there on the right side where it says the synthesis, where you could feel
Yep. So those
the
are
square.
probably something that comes up. So the main thing with those,
Miscommunication, frustration, confusion, discouragement. Yeah.
yes, the main thing with those aspects in generally, just know it's kind of like a bad weather. It comes through and it goes away. And if anything, we just make better decisions on the end of it. So,
Okay.
if you're
Well,
frustrated, do
that's
some
helpful.
yoga. That
Yeah,
helps.
exactly.
Physical and spiritual. Tai Chi is great for that as well.
Yes.
Martial
Anything that's
arts.
going to give you patience, patience,
Patience,
patience.
focus, yes, and something where to get that frustration energy out.
Yeah, but luckily it doesn't look like that one lasts very long. So
No, I mean it's not that it doesn't last very long. It will recur, because usually when the planet goes retrograde, it hits one planet, continue going backwards. Well, it doesn't go backwards, but it's just a perception, and then it's going to return and it's going to hit it again. So usually there is a 1 to 5 hits of each aspect that happening. So just to kind of be in mind. I think when I looked at it, if I remember correctly, it's going to be only 3 heat aspects, so it shouldn't be as detrimental. But usually the first heat is where we are surprised a little with the situation. The second one is where we're like, okay, let me figure out what I'm going to do about it. And the third one, okay, I got it. I'm going to implement like solution or ways I'm going to go by resolving that particular situation in my life.
okay. All right.
Maybe I can jump quickly to share a few other days in before we talk about November 8th a little bit deeper. But so there are some good days, in a month. And I did a little bit of an analysis, and let me just see. Maybe I just make it a little bigger. So there is a good days to accomplish anything mundane, because when you have Mars trining Saturn, which is Mars is, even if it's retrograde, it's still action, and Saturn is a structure. So November 25th, 28th is good. Hey, maybe it's a good day to go clean out the closet, which is mundane, or, pay some
Yes.
bills. November 29th is a good
Yes.
day as well. Dig and Dipper, because it's Mercury is our analytical thinking, sextiling Saturn, which is determination and focus. Maybe someone wants to study for an exam, could be a good day for that as well.
All right. So good days to accomplish mundane tasks, the November 25th through the 29th, and Thanksgiving falls within there, at least
Yeah.
here in America it does anyway. So
Oh, it could be
yeah.
one of those days where you sit down with a list of 200 Christmas cards to your best friends and
Oh my
sign them
gosh,
off.
that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, but it's a good day for that.
Yeah.
I would say maybe think twice before you say something on November 29th. Mercury is going to be opposition to Mars. Mars is a little cranky. He's going backwards, or, he's in retrograde. So just think about it so you don't say something. And if somebody does say something to you, like a water
So,
audit.
in other words, when you have all those relatives over, if you have people visiting from out of town for Thanksgiving,
That's right.
watch what you say on November the 29th.
That's correct. Just let it go. Breathe it in, go do some yoga. Will be good to do
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
There's some good creativity spirituality day. I know one of them was maybe November 10th. I don't know if you felt it any differently. This weekend is a little bit as good as well. It's just like a little bit more of a kind of, you can take a breather. Like if somebody had a very hectic last week and they had direct hit on their chart from that eclipse, this is a good weekend just to kind of recuperate. Lots of TLC for yourself, do something that you enjoy, maybe art, maybe writing, music, all those good things to do, meditation. So November 15th, so I think, what is it, 12, 13th, it's Tuesday, another good day, Sun trine Neptune. And again, Sun could be our creative drive and energy as well. And Neptune is very artistic. It's a higher octave of Venus. So definitely
Mm-hmm.
day for pursuing something, artistically creative, or at least write down your ideas so you can actually work with them later.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, when Mercury and Venus conjunct, that's another good day for creativity because you're thinking creatively and aesthetically. So there's a few
Okay.
dates for optimism and feeling good and content. So November 15th, 16th, 17th, 20 through 22nd. So there's some aspects I'm listing, but it's basically helping you out to be, kind of feel better. Like even if
Yeah.
something is challenging going on, at least you can find an outlet to feel better.
Well, there's lots of good days. And I just
Yeah.
made a video not that long ago saying, or a couple of days ago, actually, talking about when we're in situations where we feel like there's a lot going on, especially out in the collective, to come
Mm-hmm.
back and focus on the things that are good, the things that are working. And this is
Yes.
always optimistic here too, to look at
Mm-hmm.
that there are lots of good days. There's not just crazy lunar eclipse, days that feel hectic, but there are good days to support you.
Yes, yes. And, it's always important to find, it's always important to find a place where you want to be inside of the, what is it called? In the eye of the storm, right? Because that's the most peaceful part of it. So while all of
Mm-hmm.
those things going on, find your eye of a storm, whether it's your outlet doing yoga, doing meditation, doing something creative like gardening, whatever it is that actually kind of discharges that energy that doesn't need to be there, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because astrological weather changes all the time, but the main thing to know, it's all temporary, right? It's like there is
Yeah.
always a rainbow at the end of almost always a rainbow at the end of a storm. And whatever the
Mm-hmm.
storm is passing, it helps us to grow psychologically and as a person and spiritually. So sometimes we have to learn how to welcome them because we're not going to change unless there's something happens in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not in a good way, at least. So, if you have any beneficial changes you want to make in life, definitely Sun sextile Pluto, which is Pluto is it's an internal transformation. For me, like I know people are sometimes scared of Pluto. I think it just helps us to drive and be that phoenix rising from the ashes. So when the life hits us hard, at least it tries to destroy us. And at the end you rise up from the ashes and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna regenerate myself, I'm gonna transform, I'm gonna be better and stronger and resilient. So some good days to consider for like good changes in life is November 18 through 20.
So that would be a good day to actually act upon things. In other
Yeah.
words, to take action and to do the things that are going to lead you in that direction. Is that?
Yeah. I would say that if you want to have like let's just say a good routine going on for your health, right? Like maybe jogging or like want to do yoga 3 times a week or 4 times a week, whatever your goal is. It's a good day just to kind of start implementing those habits. Maybe you wanted to do it for a while, but you said, okay, I cannot do it because I'm busy, because of this. And those are the
Mm-hmm.
days to say, look, I'm going to move forward and I'm going to do it because it's good for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then there's lots of days there too for optimism, fun, and feeling content. So a good hunk of the middle of November, where we're stepping into right now, It does. It gives you, it looks like there's a lot of days there for you to, as you were saying, to replenish and to take advantage of the positive energy that's helping you right now.
Yes, I think part of it is also maybe part of it is to consider also that Sun is going to be moving into the sign of Sagittarius, which is more uplifting. Scorpio
Yeah,
is
that's my
yeah,
sun sign. I'm a
yes,
Sagittarius sun.
traditionally it's ruled by Jupiter, and it's a sign that likes that philosophy. It likes uplifting education. It's also about international things, included legal systems, universities, but in general, it's more uplifting science. So Scorpio has its absolutely beautiful traits, but Scorpio is a deep thinker. It's a deep emotional sign. So that's why I'm ready for Sagittarius to come through. So it's a little bit more
Yes.
like, oh, let me get out of this energy of Scorpio for a while.
Yeah, it's like levity. Sagittarius will bring some of that levity back again.
Uplifting, yes, yes. From the murky water
Mhm.
into the bushfire or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so if we can just maybe like talk a couple more minutes about November. So the eclipse is hitting the chart, and the challenge about this eclipse in general is that there is a presence of Saturn, which is our like stern teacher, it's our limitations, and presence of Uranus, which is a planet of surprises, thinking outside of the box, innovation. So and we've gone through that square between Uranus and Saturn for the past, I want to say over a year. It's just been going on for a while. So
Mhm.
when that energy meets together, it's almost like old and new kind of colliding. So now if we're thinking about the chart, we have full moon, that is a very close to Uranus. And it's opposing Sun and Venus and Mercury in Scorpio. So
You're talking about the lunar eclipse that just happened on November 8th, right?
yes, the lunar eclipse. And then that lunar eclipse is getting a square from the planet of Saturn, which is right now in Aquarius. So it's what it's forming, it's called T square in astrology. And to get alleviate that energy of this, I guess, frustration and whatever else may come up, like letting go things or a chaos, emotional chaos, there is you have to look at the opposite sign of the Aquarius, which is Leo, to kind of alleviate all of this. So I don't know where people have Leo in their charts, but that would be the area of life to focus on, just to kind of get the break from everything that was going on. In generally, what it may feel like, so I guess the signs who would be mostly impacted by this lunar eclipse, in which will last for 6 months, or effects of it will be lasting for 6 months, are Taurus and Scorpio, of course, because it's exactly there, as well as Aquarius and Leo, because those are all fixed signs and they're all impacted by this particular lunar eclipse.
So you're saying that if you know your personal chart, to take a look at your chart and see where Taurus is, to
Yes.
see where Aquarius is, where
Yes.
Leo is, the fixed signs,
Mm-hmm.
and because those are the houses too that are going to be impacted by this lunar eclipse for
Yes.
the lunar eclipse that started on November 8th, but it's going to last for 6 months. The
Yes.
impact of it.
Yes, and there could be, because of the Uranus presence, it could be just a very surprising events happening or surprising endings. But in generally, none of it is really big surprise. I think it's been going on for a while. We may have felt it. We just didn't do anything about it, right? So let's just grab Taurus as a rising. What it may feel for Taurus risings is that the energy outside of their control is happening. Things outside of their control are happening, and they're impacting them personally. And based on those surprising endings in their relationship area, they will grow. And something to keep in mind is that maybe some of those relationships outlive their usefulness, because Taurus opposition to Scorpio. Scorpio is in the 7th house of committed relationships, contracts. So for example, you decide to get rid of like several contracts you have for your home, or if you're working with someone, you're like, okay, it's no longer working for me. Could be contract with a client. It could be contract with a corporation. Like, I don't want to work for this company anymore. I want to work for someone else. So those would be surprising endings. And the surprise could be, hey, I work for this company. I don't really like it. But guess what? They're about to shut down, or, they decided to outsource this particular function somewhere else. So would be the event that is outside of the Taurus's scope. But at the same
Yeah,
time,
and then you're talking about the Uranus,
the
and you
surprise
mentioned it here
element.
with Taurus. It is the surprising part. Like,
Yes.
expect
The,
things, expect the unexpected for the next
that's right.
6 months.
That's right. So you may think what it may happen, but honestly, like my personal experience, whatever comes up, you can never guess. It's like you can anticipate things, but something completely different happens. So the best thing to deal with this is just, find where's your Leo house. If it's like, Taurus, so it's going to be your 4th house, which is your family, home, your property, spending time with your relatives, like mom, dad, more like than anything else, because it's your foundations. Do that. Enjoy that portion of your life. And if, of course, if you have a Scorpio rising, that you may experience changes in your relationships, but it's going to be coming from the other person. Someone, for example, you had a relationship for a while, decided to completely change. And they have surprise, they decided, okay, you know what? I had this relationship with you for 6 months, but now I'm decided to go and move to another country. So that would be surprising endings. So I would say, again, with that energy, just let it go, and maybe focus on your career, because the 10th house, where your Leo is going to be for Scorpio. It's going to be the career. Focus on your career.
So focus on the things in that case, like the things that you can manage, and the things that you can control. Because
Yes.
there might be these surprises that come that you're gonna have no control over, especially here you're talking about relationships, or someone might, come to you with I don't know, like you said, moving or deciding to leave. You have no control over that. Let that be. Focus on the things that you can manage, that you can control.
That's correct. Yes. And for someone with a Leo rising, there could be some surprises in their career. And thinking about this, so the opposition of Leo is Aquarius, which is Saturn. So it could be some significant relationship. Let's just say, boss are, some kind of authority figure that impacts their career, and they have an unpredictable change. It could be like, let's just say a government comes in and shuts down the business, or a big boss resigns, or something like that. So that career unpredictability is something that Leo risings may experience in the next 6 months. And again, it would be more impactful if you have placements there as well. So if it doesn't impact you directly, it could be someone that that would be impacted directly by that particular configuration.
Okay. So with Leo rising, then you're saying that could impact your career. With Scorpio rising, that could, if you have a Scorpio rising, that could impact your relationships with surprises. And the Taurus rising was, what was the Taurus rising, the main
The
impact?
relationships will be impacting Taurus. So goes the other
So
way.
relationships with Taurus as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, and then we have, of course, Aquarius rising. And Aquarius rising would be some unexpected changes in a family of origin. Maybe they figure out that certain tradition the family upheld may no longer work for them, and they just want to complete an utter change. So they should be focusing, probably expecting some changes in a family arena. Or maybe, they decided to keep the house, right? The house goes in.
So with Taurus, it's relationships, but more with family.
For Aquarius, it's relationships with the family, yes, because it's a 4th house. So the best way to deal with that one is work with your, spouse, or with your friend, like really close friends or significant relationships that you've got, to kind of get out of that energy if it's getting too stressful.
Okay. All right. Well, that's helpful. So in other words, if you're watching this, figure out what your rising sign is. And for the next few months, while this lunar eclipse, the energy of the lunar eclipse is still active, it'll show you through the impact of where your rising sign is and to expect the unexpected there. Is that the gist of?
Yes, I'd say expected, unexpected, and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Find where your eye of the storm is.
Yes. Okay, well, that's helpful. Well, thank you so much for all of this.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you want to emphasize? I mean, you gave us a lot of good information already. So we talked about the lunar eclipse. We talked about these, what you still have up here, some good days. Expect on November 19th to 22nd might be some frustration there because of Neptune's and Mars squaring, and Mars is in retrograde. So November 19th through the 22nd, expect some of that. And then as we said, the good days to help to balance all whatever else is going on.
Here you go.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Olga, for your time and your information and your wisdom. I hope that this is helpful for all of you that was watching. Yeah, if you have any thoughts or any questions or any comments, just let us know, and we'll try to accommodate you as best as we can. Any last thoughts, Olga?
Yes, breathe.
There you go. That's a good one. Definitely. Just to breathe. Okay. Do you want to take this out of the shared screen for a moment?
Yep.
That way. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we will go ahead and send you off and wish you the best for November, and then we'll be back sometime for, possibly December, January, what's going on there. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.